Hey gamers, welcome to the Part-Time Gamers Club where we game part-time but support gaming all the time. For those of you tuning back in, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the crew. I'm Gio. Alongside me is Gerard and Mike. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the disaster that is known as Concord. Let's get to it.
We're going to go over a few key points. We're going to talk about the reasons this is happening and the basically historical moment of this, because this is going down in history, definitely, for sure. I wanted to start off with the reasoning and a little bit of context, where Concord is a video game being produced and basically at launch only had 700 players playing the game. Now, usually that wouldn't be much of an issue, except for the fact that and I need to kind of zoom in on for this effect. The game cost $200 million. So when you have 700 players and you all pay $200 million to put out this game, you're definitely not making back on your return. So I would like to ask your guys' opinions on your thoughts for the reasons that's being gone. They can range from anything, but I'll go through a little bit of it. But you tell me your thoughts specifically. Gio, tell me yours.
Well, we discussed this a little bit off camera, but personally, I think huge issue. None of us knew this game was even coming out, really. I mean, I didn't hear anything about it. I think the first time we even learned anything about it is when we were actually doing our episode for Secret Level. So that's when we kind of learned about the game, because we were looking up all the games that are coming out in that Amazon series. So that's a huge issue, especially a game that you've invested $200 million. I think another issue was it ran into, I believe that you guys call it development hell, because it's been in development for 8 years. So a game that long, and I believe that was a game that was designed to compete with Overwatch. And if I'm correct, the original Overwatch came out in 2016. So it took you 8 years to make an Overwatch game, and $200 million later, and you just like, it shouldn't have taken that long. There's a second Overwatch already. There's Paladins. There's all these other games that do the same thing. So I think it was just overall disaster from the beginning. It's probably something they should have scrapped early on, because honestly, 8 years, there's no reason a game should take 8 years at this point, in my honest opinion.
All right. What about you, Mike? What are your thoughts on the reasons it failed?
I mean, I think Gio put it pretty much spot on the marketing aspect, because like I said, there was no trailer or nothing I've heard about this game coming out, and it's done in 8 years. Now, 200 mil, I'm not saying it's chump change, but nowadays it's around that same average of price of making a game. So, but losing 200 mil regardless is still huge. And the fact that they just scrapped it, it's like, nope, can't do it. But I know I've been hearing that they probably might make it free to play, but I think the biggest issue is probably marketing. It's really wasn't marketed well. They didn't invest into, making, hyping the game up or something, something along that lines to just like bring it out to the audience. But I think that was just my biggest issue with it. It's just marketing. Never heard of it, so.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down the line as everyone having the same opinion, but I really do think it's marketing. It's just like Gio mentioned that it has been in development for 8 years, and how do you not say anything about a game for 8 years? Like, no process, nothing like that. And to give a little bit of more context, is that this is made by a company called Firewalk Studios, that's the developers, and published by Sony. So either of them could have marketed the game. Now, I'm not going to give too much flack to Firewalk Studios. This is a new up-and-coming studios that Sony's put together under their repertoire, and this is the very first game they released. But Sony should have known better. Sony should have marketed this game. Sony is definitely responsible. They have literally a console that they can freaking market it on. Just an advertisement, a pop-up, something. And the fact that, and the game released this August 20th, and 700 people. You're telling me that no one knew about this game? Because like when we talked about secret levels, it was funny because we were going over like how many all mainstream games they were, and we saw Concord. We're like, what the heck is that? That's how bad they marketed that game. We saw a different like media saw Concord and was like, what is this? And it was literally already released. That's how bad it is. We didn't even know it was released yet when we started recording, because by the time we recorded that secret level post, it was already out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they expect. I don't know what they expect. Just drop it, and then it's just gonna pick up word of mouth, and then it's just gonna blow up. And,
Yeah.
like, I didn't even know what type of game it was. Concord, like, it doesn't really give you an idea what the game is. Like, is it a shooting game? Is it just based off the name? Well, maybe I'm dumb and I don't know what Concord is, but
There's many definitions for Concord, so I'm like,
yeah, like
I say
No,
many
no.
definitions, like 3.
He's right though, because honestly, when you think about it, you're like, I didn't even know what type of game it was. We had no clue. None of us knew when we had to look it up, and then like you said, we realized, oh, this shit's out. What the hell? What is it? And then I was like, oh, I guess it's supposed to be some kind of Overwatch. But it's like, even right now, I would say they waited too long, because the Overwatch, I'd say, popularity's kind of died down a bit, because of battle royales mainly. But if that game would have come out maybe in 2018, 2019, probably would have been the right time. Especially if they started developing in 2016, they were still the Overwatch hype. You didn't have Overwatch 2 yet. Paladins was there also. I'm not sure, Gerard, if you know any other ones that are pretty popular in that realm, that style of gameplay, but those are two that come to mind.
I don't really play that many, I guess, lane shooters.
Yeah. But to be honest, like, it's like, if the timing was god awful. Like I said, development hell, I think, really also killed it more so than even the marketing aspect. But like you said, if you have Sony Entertainment as your publisher, how does that not get marketed? And to be fair, the 697 is just off of Steam. Apparently, it sold 25,000 copies total. But like you said, you're not making up 200 million off of 25,000 copies.
No.
Yeah, especially if being a new franchise, you're trying to put it a new franchise.
Mm.
There's no established fan base for this, so like you gotta put marketing into this. Like nobody's just gonna pick up a game just because it's. I mean, even I'm sorry, my opinion, the title is just not appealing to me.
Yeah. But like what they do with, like, you remember, Gerard, a game back in the day that was supposed to be the Zelda killer? I forget what it was called.
The
Dark
Zelda
something.
killer?
Yeah. It was a game that PlayStation was making. I remember trying it, and it was called like in gaming magazines, the hype built up around it was like the Zelda killer or something like that. So it was supposed to be a game that was supposed to compete with Zelda games. So like, if you're making a game that's supposed to compete with Overwatch, build some hype around it. Say, like, show like you're in competition with them. Like, call it the Overwatch killer or the Overwatch destroyer, something. Build some kind of expectation.
You would even need to go that far. Overwatch.
Yeah.
The Overwatch killer was Overwatch 2. It killed all the Overwatches.
And that's a separate topic we can discuss.
Yeah. We'll get on Blizzard another day.
It died for a different reason, Gio. It died for a different.
Suicide.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, like those kind of games, and I agree. Like, there could be many problems with the game. All right, Concord could be be glitchy, could be buggy. There could be a whole bunch of like flaws with the game. But like, no one's going to know good or bad about a game unless you tell people about the game. So, I think this, like, the greatest thing is, and there are probably people out there right now listening is like, I knew about Concord. How did you not know about Concord? Blah, 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 blah. I was like, I thought about it and was like, if they made the game shitty, I'm pretty sure it would have received more publicity. Because the fact that I didn't know about the game and then I found out that the game was being refunded and being pulled down before I even knew the game was available says massive amount. Because if the game was really bad, people will tell you not to buy it. Then more people would know because people were telling you not to buy it.
It's true.
And from what I read, it wasn't a bad game. People actually like it.
But if it wasn't a great game and it wasn't a bad game, then that means it was a forgettable game, and that's the problem.
That's even worse in reality if you think about it, especially for a game that you invested $200 million, like you said, Mike. I know that's probably the bare minimum these days, but not in 2016 when it was starting to be developed. I think the 200 million was kind of like Gerard has stated in other episodes. When you drag out a game for 8 years, what it used to cost to do that process now costs more 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah, we're scaling up the process costs.
Yep. Because it took so long and it dragged so hard, and then you start thinking, well, damn, you should start marketing. Like, I hate to bring them up because I know Gerard's feelings towards them, but at least Ubisoft is trying to market their disasters. Like, they're trying to save themselves.
No,
this game did. PlayStation didn't even try. They just said whatever.
No. I disagree with you 100% on Ubisoft is trying it all. They're trying to
at least they're trying to bribe people to try to buy, YouTubers and stuff. We didn't even see that with Concord. It's not even like YouTubers were streaming it ahead of time, early access, something. You know what I mean?
And this is the final thing I'll say on this is I think Sony left Firewalk Studios out to dry. I felt like Sony was responsible for marketing, and then when the game flopped because they didn't market it, they were like, okay, well, we're just going to not do anything. You guys clean up your mess. And Firewalk's like, this is our first game we produce. We can't do much more than offer free funds, make this free to play probably, and see if we recur all of our losses. We don't know how much money came from Sony and things like that. So this is all
when they gave up on them? They gave up on them in the beta because the beta only had 23, almost 2,400 players. I think that's when Sony just gave up. I'll be honest.
No, honestly, that's more than the people, but yeah. But here's the thing, and we've been talking about the $200 million budget for this game, or at least the cost of this game. Don't know what the budget is. This is an historical event because the last time a game of this size failed was also the last game or the last time studios such as I don't want to say Naughty Dogs because I'm trying to remember the name studios, but the last time this has happened, a studio literally failed and went bankrupt. So this is an historical event because this is the first time a AAA game has flopped in this way, and I want you to know your thoughts on what the industry will take from this, because this is definitely a lesson to be learned going around. So Mike, what are your thoughts on what everyone will learn from this, both the industry and the general public as well?
Market.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, there's other stuff that you could learn from it, the whole 8 years to make this game. Maybe it should have just did an early beta, like just things that you could have done.
Yeah.
Is it how early? I don't know.
I don't know how early it was, but I know they had a beta.
Like maybe put a general feeler out there. It's hard because, like I said, never heard of the game, so marketing does play a big role into like, hey, you gotta put it out there, especially if this is trying to be a new franchise. Like you gotta market. I just don't understand why there wasn't any more, and maybe there were, but
very little.
Very little, and it was a little small crowd that they reached, and maybe just word of mouth wasn't what they expected. I don't know what their expectation was, but obviously it failed because they, scrapped it, and now they're trying to find alternative route, like maybe a free to play, like how Fortnite, Destiny 2, I think now is where you buy to recoup some of the money, do in-game service. How those games are like skins and stuff like that, and then try to recoup at least through that way, and then maybe it'll blow up because of this, the reason of the failure. Maybe it becomes popular again, and people will play it because it's free to play. It's different than paying for a $40 game and then, or people will more be inclined to play a free to play to test it out and then enjoy it. Just because it failed now doesn't mean it's gonna, fail again. Well, not again, but like maybe
Later down the line.
they do the free to play.
And
Not recover.
yeah, I will put like extra on that, Mike. No Man's Sky and Fallout 76 is those examples. Fallout No Man's Sky is the one that is the most prominent one that I thought was like, oh, that failed hard at launch, but eventually No Man's Sky got good.
Wasn't Cyberpunk another one?
Cyberpunk 2077 also failed at launch, but it was mostly because graphic issues and glitching and everything like that. They put it on for PS5 and PS4, and the PS4 version was just literally unplayable. But Gio, what are your thoughts?
To be honest, I just think, like you guys said, it's marketing. I think the other part, I still blame it more so on the development. I think for 8 years, that just was way too much time. And then you wanted to charge 30 something, $40, whatever. It was like something like that. I think they should have just went to the free to play route from the start, especially how much they spent on the game, and just try to recoup that money through in-game, purchases and stuff like that.
Still can.
Yeah, they can. They can if Sony decides to put it back on their platform. Right now, it's just scrapped. We don't know what's going to happen with it. So if they decide to put it back on the market somehow, I also think, honestly, if you kind of seen how the game looks, the character designs and stuff like that, I think it was, I don't know, it just wasn't really that appealing also. Like, it didn't seem like that, like, interesting or cool. Like, I'm just being honest. It just kind of looked like, another wannabe Overwatch. That's what it looked like to me. It just wannabe. So
I will say there are very successful a lot of wannabe video games as a heads up.
No, that's true. But there are a lot of wannabe video games that are just okay games that are just knockoffs. You know what I mean? They're not really anything to brag home about. And I think that's kind of what it fell into. And the fact that it took 8 years to make that kind of quality game, I think that's kind of why Concord kind of became this epic disaster in a sense.
Yeah, and I will say there are games that development hell has taken them beyond like decades of work. Duke Nukem Forever is a good example. That game also failed on launch, and it was in development for like at least 12, 13 years, I think. And they're like games that have been in development for a very long time and then wide success. Elden Ring is a good example. So I don't think development time itself is a factor to say a game is going to fail or not, but I do think time is irrelevant. So if you put out a bad product, it is going to be a bad product, and anything that is even a little bit different than the average is going to be used against you. But who's to say? So I have no more comments. If anyone has any more keywords or anything they want to bring up.
I just want to know what other people think about this. Because like I said, this is unprecedented. We've never seen this in gaming. We've
seen games fail on launch, but we've never seen a game backtrack this quickly before. This is like the first time I've ever seen a game literally get pulled down within a month of it being released. Like,
in such a low player count. I've never seen not even break 1,000 on release day.
For a AAA game, I would like to be.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, you didn't even break 1,000. Like 1,000 players on Steam. And Steam's a huge platform. It's not hard to get players. There's a lot of games that are not known that have a lot of players. So.
Or at least on their release. Anyway, with that being said, that's all from us. We would like to know your thoughts. So make sure you leave down a comment down below, gamers, on your opinions on the game of Concord and whether or not you would ever play an Overwatch clone now that Overwatch is dead. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Part-Time Gamers podcast. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And follow us on our other social platforms on TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. Links for those will be provided in the description. Thank you again. We will see you on the next episode of the podcast. And make sure you make some time for video games. Peace.